Public Accounts Committee, IBC CEO Hussein Marjan had difficulties explaining how at some point one legal firm received 1.9 billion shillings in a fee note that was presented to the body. This even as stakeholders made submissions on the election servers being open to the public, saying trust deficit cannot be quenched through legislation but fixing systemic issues. Joel Chacha tells us more.
Maybe that's something we need to get first from the Commission.
The National Assembly Public Accounts Committee has put on the spot the Independent Electoral Boundaries Commission (IEBC) on audit queries following payment of 4 billion Kenya shillings as legal fees in the 2022 general election.
I'm being asked to release money to pay those billions in terms of legal fees. I'll grow cold feet. One advocate who is appearing 278 to 282, those are five cases, 85 million. Again, Chair, when you look at all those numbers I've given you, you will find like 15, 16 legal firms. They can basically stay in their law firms and only make a living for a whole year on IEBC.
You only pick 4 and they support one another and you finish the case. Why do you have to call the old Nairobi lawyers, law firms, on one case?
IEBC CEO Hussein Marjan found it difficult to explain how a single law firm gobbled up 1.9 billion Kenya shillings following a fee note it raised.
Chair, I need to understand whether it is a question of competence or a question of capacity that makes us to incur such a huge losses of money.
We are considering the flip side of this case. If the Commission were to lose the presidential election petition, this country would go into a fresh election and the cost would be 12 billion.
Lagos stated this is a presidential petition, and if we did not have good strategy, we will not have won this petition. I'm not a legal person, but I would rely heavily on the advice of the legal advice directory. And by the way, for all the cases that are outside of the caps, they are always negotiated.
Meanwhile, the Justice and Legal Affairs Committee of the Senate received submissions on the Elections Amendment Bill number 2 of 2024.
We must open this electronic audit of elections for anybody to scrutinize so that then it becomes easy and it settles the question of a cantankerous presidential election period. Voting should be simple, accurate, verifiable, secure, accountable and transparent. Not counting. And I think that's why you get it wrong. We always think that what should be verified is counting and the results. If you don't get the voting right, then all those things you are verifying are on a false premise. And this is why we will never meet the constitutional values and principles in our elections.
The committee was referred to mistakes of past elections that could be resolved without introduction of foreign policies in handling elections.
Elections should not be complicated, really. There are many other issues. And I'm just wondering, just thinking aloud, seriously, we have these 3 years. The experts, I mean, COG, JLAC, IBC and the rest, can't we come together and look at what life can be? How easy can elections be in Kenya?
In other countries, candidates don't even go. Presidential candidates or other candidates don't even go to a tally center where the presidential results are. They watch it from either their party headquarters, so as to avoid a conflict of the kind we saw last year, which can get very ugly and cause anarchy in the country.
Our submission as FIDA is that we cannot really divorce ourselves from the question of trust. Trust at many levels, as has been submitted. Elections are not complicated.
From an ELOC point of view, the major question about elections is trust. And there's a fear that we may over-legislate our elections because of trying to address basically a software issue. So rather than casting aspersions on IEBC, on whoever, Parliament, because there's a deficit of trust nearly in all the institutions, not just one, I think we need to use this moment and this opportunity to be able to put our house together in terms of election processes in the country.
Joel Chacha, K24 TV, Nairobi.
President William Ruto has continued his push for national unity while calling on ODM and UDA leaders to put their political differences aside and work together. The head of state has further defended his broad-based government approach, which he maintains its end goal is to foster the country's development agenda. Bentura Komboka with the details of that report.
President William Ruto has concluded his 4-day tour of the coastal region while amplifying calls for national unity and accountability. Speaking today in Mombasa and Tana River counties, the head of state has defended his decision on reconstituting his cabinet, comprising of leaders from the opposition, saying the move was aimed at fostering development and national cohesion.
Ndugu yangu mdogo Mohamed Ali, na waomba viongozi wa pande zote, upande wetu wa UDA, upande wa ODM, na waomba sasa tuwache ubabe chini, tuungane, tuweze kupeleka Mombasa, Pwani na Kenya mbele. Na mimi nikisema hivyo, mimi sitaki kukatisha mambo ya kiongozi yeyote. Nyinyi wananchi ndio mafundi. Si nyinyi ndio mtachagua? Si mnajua kuchagua MCA? Mnajua kuchagua mjumbe? Na gavana na senator? Si hata rais nyinyi ndio kusema?
Speaking during the laying of a foundation stone at the Nyali TVET Institute, Ruto has called for a taming of political rivalry between UDA and ODM leaders, with Nyali Member of Parliament Mohamed Ali hitting out former Mombasa Governor Hassan Joho, telling him to focus on his newly nominated position in government.
Tafadhali, hii siasa ya Mombasa local politics utuachie tunyoane vizuri hapa. Na huyo ndugu yetu Joho tutamkaribisha. Na ukimpa bendera, ajue hiyo si bendera ya Mombasa, ni bendera ya Kenya. Kwa hivyo aserve Kenyans, awache ile vituko ya Mombasa County. UDA iko imara. Si mnaona juzi si niliambia governor nitampatia wheelbarrow, akachanganyikiwa, akasahau kuita rais. Leo amekimbia wote.
The inclusion of Ali Hassan Joho in the government has caused a stir in the region, with the President William Ruto calling on leaders to put their political differences aside and embrace unity.
Naona hapa kuna kidogo ubabe wa kisiasa. Mimi nawaomba tafadhali ndugu zangu. Nawaomba tuungane, nawaomba tushirikiane, nawaomba tufanye kazi pamoja, kwa sababu taifa la Kenya na umoja wa taifa la Kenya ni muhimu.
The president winded his tour in Tana River County, where he pledged to relocate flood victims and connect 6,000 households, as well as the Galana Kulalu irrigation project in the last mile electricity connection.
Kwa janga la mafuriko ambayo ilitokea hapa Tana River, kama serikali, kuna watu zaidi ya 6,000 makao yao iliharibika. Mimi nataka nitangaze nikiwa Tana River, tumewapatia milioni 450 ili kuwajengea manyumba upya wale familia 6,000 ambayo familia zao ama makao yao iliharibika siku ya mafuriko.
Bentura Komboka, K24, Nairobi.
It is now official that Raila Odinga will be running for the chairmanship of the African Union Commission in the February 2025 elections in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia. This announcement follows the formal submission of his candidacy by Foreign Affairs Principal Secretary Dr. Korir Singoi. Since its inception as OAU in 1963 and its mutation to AUC, no Kenyan has ever served as the Secretary General or Chairperson of the organization. And as Electa Inodera now reports, Kenya has high hopes of emerging the first nation within the East African bloc to reign the top leadership of Africa's continent since the introduction of election rule in 2018 that seeks to promote the principle of regional rotation.
Kenya is racing against time in jostling for the AU chairmanship position. This was made evident after Dr. Korir Singoi Principal Secretary for Foreign Affairs, formally submitted the candidature of Raila Odinga for the position. Kenya has tried the position in recent years, but has failed since its formation in 1963. In 2017, former Foreign Affairs Cabinet Secretary Amina Mohamed tried her stab but didn't make it through. This time, pundits say it could be Kenya's time to lead the African continent, since no Kenyan has ever served as the Secretary General or chairperson of the organization since its formation. With Odinga prepared for the campaign trail, however, there seems to be stiff competition from Somalia's Fauzia Yusuf Adam and Mohammed Ali Yusuf of Djibouti, the latest entrant. Only one is expected to take the mantle of leadership from Musa Faki Mahamat in the elections slated for 25th of February 2025 in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, during the 38th ordinary session of the Assembly of Heads of State and Government of the Africa Union. In the letter forwarded to AU, Kenya argues that Odinga is the ideal candidate for the position as his Pan-Africanist credentials, his suitability, his vast networks across Africa, and his proven competency to lead AU, Africa's premier continental organization. He has served as Prime Minister and in various ministerial portfolios, and importantly as the High Representative of the AU Chairperson on Infrastructure. He has also served several elections in Africa and has served as a peace mediator in several countries, read part of the statement. Kenya also argues that it is only Odinga who can best optimize resources endowed by Africa for the benefit of all. Kenya also believes that Odinga's leadership is visionary, transformational, action-oriented, and will accelerate the implementation of the aspirations, goals, and flagship programs of Agenda 2063, and that he has formulated priorities and strategies to address the most pressing challenges facing the continent, including African integration and infrastructure development, economic transformation, enhancing intra-African trade, financial independence, gender equity and equality, agricultural transformation, climate action, peace and security, and a young empowerment agenda for Africa. As Kenya seeks to bolster her efforts to sit at the helm of AU's leadership for the first time, it has maintained its bragging rights of being a member in good standing within the AU and consistently meets its obligations to the Union, and that since the introduction of the election rule in 2018, that leadership should be based on the principle of regional balance, giving it confidence to automatically lead the East African region for the position. Electin Odera, K24 TV.
UDA Secretary General Cleophas Malala and Trans Nzoia Governor George Natembeya have called on the ODM party to clarify their stance on the nomination of ODM leaders into President William Ruto's government. Speaking in Kakamega County during Mulembe People's Assembly, the leaders criticized ODM party for distancing itself from the appointments. The remarks came as elected leaders from the region gave the meeting a wide berth, despite indicating that they were going to chart a new political path for the Mulembe community at the meeting. Timothy Seymour with that report.
The inaugural Mulembe People's Assembly went down at the Kakamega Golf Club today, despite falling short of its last week's bidding. None of the elected legislators from the region attended the meeting, save for Trans Nzoia Governor George Natembeya, UDA Secretary General Cleophas Malala, and former Cabinet Secretary Rashid Echesa. Natembeya and Malala jointly took a swipe at the Orange Democratic Movement Party for denying any involvement of their members being appointed into President William Ruto's cabinet. Malala further took issue with the ODM's demands for dialogue, saying they are in no position to give conditions to the government.
Hiyo siasa ya uongo na utapeli nafaa tumalize. Sababu kama umeweka officials wako wote kwa serikali, you cannot be in government and in opposition at the same time. You must choose one place. Na hii mambo ya kusema kwamba ati mnaweka barua ati dialogue, tufanye dialogue. Kwani wale watu wakiappointiwa wakina Oparanya, hamkufanya dialogue ndio wakaappointiwa?
Governor Natembeya, has been leading a campaign dubbed Tawe to challenge the status quo in Mulembe politics, says time is now for the vote-rich community to chart a new political path.
Mahali tumefikia tunasema nini? Mambo ya kupigia watu kura. Wanaenda kugawana vitu huko. Wanatusahau wakati ya kukula nyama, wakati ya kuwinda tunawinda pamoja. Wakati ya kukula wanakula peke yao. Tumesema nini? Tumekataa. Na sisi tumesema kwamba ile meza tutakaribishwa. Tukitumia namba zetu kama jamii, tutaenda kwa ile meza bila kukaribishwa.
The first-time governor reckons that Luyas have nothing to write home about their huge numbers.
The politics is about numbers. Sisi kama jamii tumetumia namba zetu namna gani? Ili tuwache kuomba vile tunaomba sema kwamba tumepewa nini. Kwa sasa inatakana kuwa nafasi ya Mluya ako ndiye ako na kisu ya kugawa hii nyama tunapata namna gani. Kama tungekuwa tumejipanga vizuri with our numbers. Watu wetu, imekuwaje? Jamii namba 2. Hata urais peke yake hatuwezi kunusa. Jamii namba 5 imetupita. Jamii namba 2 tumekuwa watu wa kukula kwa macho.
Former Cabinet Secretary Rashid Echesa on his part challenged Prime Cabinet Secretary Musalia Mudavadi and Speaker Moses Wetangula to enumerate to the community what they have delivered for the Mulembe Nation in government.
Tumekuja hapa tuongee kama watoto wa mtu mmoja. Ndio ikifika 2027 tuwe tunaweza keti kwa ile meza tukiangaliana macho kwa macho tukiwa na heshima.
And just like previous efforts, the move to consolidate the Mulembe Nation votes is already facing headwinds after Kakamega Deputy Governor Ayub Savula described the meeting as disruptive and whose agenda is to undermine Musalia, Wetangula and Wycliffe Oparanya. Timothy Simwakei, 24 TV.
Have you watched K24? We would love to hear from you. Send us your feedback on what you like and what you don't like and why. You can use any platform to reach us. We can be reached on Facebook, SMS, Twitter and WhatsApp.
Furahia na Star Times. Enjoy our amazing channels with the best dramas and telenovelas daily. Discover your love language.
Will you marry me?
Words of affirmation.
I'm sure I like you because you're unlike everyone. You are my baby.
Quality time.
Life isn't worth living without you.
Receiving gifts.
Thank you.
Acts of service. And physical touch to build a love that lasts. Furahia na Star Times. Buy the DTH decoder for only 2,999 shillings and top up 200 shillings to enjoy unlimited entertainment on the Smart Bouquet. You can also link your decoder to the Star Times on app to enjoy unlimited entertainment on the go, anytime, anywhere. Star Times. Enjoy digital life.
People come to me and they say they get discomfort when they have ice cream. Can you imagine that? Avoiding having cold ice cream. Sensodyne gives you long-lasting protections against sensitivity. And people come in and they're like, oh, it works. I can have ice cream and I'm not in any discomfort. I recommend Sensodyne because it works. It's brilliant.
Welcome back. Let's move on. Busia Senator